Chers amis, mesdames et messieurs, bonsoir. Quel plaisir d'être ici avec vous tous et d'être dans la compagnie extraordinaire de Madame Hiscox, encore une fois, 2 fois dans une semaine que je suis chanceuse. Merci, Heather. En tout cas, I was just saying that I'm in the marvelous company of Heather Hiscox, and what a joy and a delight it is to see her again. I don't know how she does it every morning. I really don't. As I gather around the television in my jams, like most of you. Sorry if that's too much information, but that's the way it is when you're rushing around in the morning like I am with coffee in hand, and you're extraordinary, and we love that you're part of our wonderful CBC. Thank you, Heather, for everything you do. It's just terrific, and great to see you. Thank you so much. And I just want to say quickly about that video. Wasn't it great? And so extraordinary to see dans les 2 langues, anglais et français, les 2 langues, une société bilingue, qu'on est chanceux de vivre au Canada et à l'Ontario dans ce temps-ci extraordinaire, mais en tout cas, qu'on est chanceux. And so lucky, yes. To see authors in English and in French, and I think I had 2 favorite quotes from that video. I wrote them down. One was Marguerite, merde alors. Oh, was that not the best? And the best part about that, for those of you that may not speak French, I won't do the literal translation, chers amis. En tout cas, je vais pas faire la traduction littérale, mais en tout cas, merde can mean good luck, right? Right? So I was looking at it from that perspective and thinking how lovely, and then, of course, the fabulous Alice Munro, always extraordinary, and Margaret Atwood. And Thomas King, my other favorite, take a nap. Take a nap. Wouldn't the world be a better place if we all took a nap once in a while? And just, and the extraordinary Amélie et les Singes Bleus. Weren't they fantastic? Let's have a round of applause for them again. That's extraordinary. So, Heather, I'm being looked at by Karen, who's tapping her watch. So I'm sorry, Karen, I'm teasing you, but I am delighted to be here with you this evening. Chers amis, mesdames, messieurs, Annie, Bojo, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you. Lovely, lovely to be here. Before I begin, on the eve of National Aboriginal Day, I want to acknowledge that we are on the land that has been a gathering place of Indigenous people for generations. I want to show my respect for this history today and always, for the treaties and for the ongoing contributions of Indigenous people of Ontario. Merci. Thank you. Chimagwech. So much to celebrate this evening. So much. But first let me say, bon 30e anniversaire, happy 30th birthday. I'm so delighted to be here on behalf of Premier Kathleen Wynne and the Government of Ontario. I bring greetings from our Premier to celebrate the best and brightest in Ontario's literary community. As novelists and poets, your work is a fundamental part of our creative economy. And by telling the stories of who we are as Ontarians, you help us root ourselves in the land and discover who we are. Literature and poetry also open doors to new worlds, new ideas, and new perspectives. And writers, those of you in the audience, invite us to step into another world and reimagine what that world could be. Grâce à leurs œuvres, les écrivains nous aident à adopter la culture de l'inclusion, de l'innovation et de l'opportunité qui définit l'Ontario. Et ils prouvent que certaines des plus grandes œuvres sont écrites ici même, chez nous. Ontario's literature is a window into our province's unique experience, which is all the more relevant in Ontario's 150th anniversary year, as we honor the many voices that together make up our province. I am proud to recognize, celebrate, and congratulate all of the talented authors shortlisted for this year's Trillium Book Award. As your Minister of Culture, I am incredibly proud of the depth and talent and creativity resident here in Ontario, and tonight's awards are a shining example of that. The Ontario government established the Trillium Book Award in 1987 to recognize excellence, support the marketing of works by Ontario authors, and foster increased public awareness of the quality and the diversity of Ontario writers and Ontario books. For the past 30 years, the awards have been shining a spotlight on that talent, like the writers here this evening, as well as the continuing support and dedication of their publishers. Ontario's book publishing industry is the largest in Canada, accounting for 2/3 of the country's total industry revenues. You are all part of that success. Through our agencies, the OMDC and the Ontario Arts Council, we're delighted to support you as you achieve success and make us proud on the national and international stage. You know, the relationship between Ontario children and Canadian literature is terribly important. And we heard through your input to the Ontario Culture Strategy that this should be highlighted in our schools. As a lifelong lover of books, as someone who, at the behest of a creative and thoughtful mother, now 91 and an avid reader, and always ahead of the curve, Mom made sure we were all reading before we went to school. And so my curious and creative nature was nurtured by a love of books. I feel extraordinarily fortunate to have had that support and that encouragement from my parents. And in this, yes, thank you. I'm the youngest of 7 children, and I was that kid that would bring the flashlight to bed and Mom would come at 11 o'clock or whenever it was and knock on the door and see the light, and I would get in trouble and have to turn it out and promptly fall asleep. But how lucky was I? And of course, in the spirit of ensuring that more Ontario children have that chance, I'm thrilled this evening to announce that we're launching the Canadian Books in Ontario Schools Fund to make it easier for teachers to choose to teach Canadian literature. This fund will provide $250,000 annually so that more of our young people will have the opportunity to study works of literature like those we're honoring tonight. Publishers will be able to apply for funding to develop lesson plans to accompany works of Canadian literature, Canadian books in our schools, so our children can read and see the world around them reflected back at themselves. Is there anything better than that? I'm not sure. So the program will be administered by the OMDC. Thank you, Karen, very much for that. Isn't that great? And I think you'll be pleased to hear that the applications are going live starting this Friday. So brace yourself, Karen and staff. I think people are taking out their pens or getting out their phones. So, Mesdames et Messieurs, on est ravis d'avoir la capacité dès maintenant de présenter aux étudiants des histoires qui reflètent leurs expériences personnelles et qui leur ouvrent l'esprit aux différents points de vue des autres, puisque cela fait une partie importante de leur formation. This fund, this extraordinary fund, which we are proud to announce this evening, and which was highlighted as an important component of our culture strategy that we launched a year ago, will introduce students to stories that reflect their own experience back to them, ones that open their eyes to the different perspectives of others. And this in itself is an essential part of their education, and Ontario's authors and publishers have a key role to play in that learning process. Tonight, I would like to thank the hardworking writers, editors, and publishers, and the women and men behind the scenes who have supported you along the way. I would also like to thank the OMDC and the dedicated jury members who evaluate all of the nominated books for making the Trillium Book Awards possible. In closing, I'd like to share a quote from one of my favorite authors, perhaps appropriately a children's author. And as someone pointed out to me tonight, he's not Canadian, and I'm sorry about that, but maybe I'm making a point. We just launched a fund to encourage more authors for Canadian young people. And I'm going to quote Dr. Seuss, because when I was growing up, Dr. Seuss was it. And I know he's not Canadian, but he got me to love books, and maybe that's not so bad, right? So here it is. It's from a wonderful book called I Can Read With My Eyes Shut. And it says, the more that you read, the more things you will know. The more that you learn, the more places you'll go. Merci, mesdames et messieurs. Merci au fond du cœur de m'avoir invité ce soir. Thank you for inviting me this evening.